Considering how the Batman has been treated in live action on the big screen up till now, I've taken it upon myself to circumvent any problems that should arise while penning the next Batman movie. And as not to date this video, let's just say whatever that film may be. Today we'll look at the top 5 things every Batman writer should remember. Number 5. Don't neglect the Bat family. For some strange reason, for a character with such a large roster of supporting characters, screenwriters tend to avoid the Bat family like the plague. For some reason, Hollywood prefers to see Batman as a lone vigilante the same way they prefer to see to it that Peter Parker never makes it out of high school. The characters of Batman and Robin go together like, well, Batman and Robin. In fact, Robin was primarily created to have someone for Batman to interact with. While Hollywood prefers to lean on the aging Alfred as Batman's sole confidant, Robin was meant to appeal to the young members of the fandom, a demo most Batman writers tend to ignore altogether. Some tend to scoff at Batman for putting children in harm's way, but the fact is Batman trains protégés not for his good, but for theirs. The fact that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are kindred spirits is a very emotional tie that binds them together. Batman, knowing the pain that young Dick is going through, has no choice but to channel his pain and anger into something positive, the way he himself did. It's something Batman Forever and the animated series episodes Robin's Reckoning got very right. A very good movie can be made that focuses on the bond of Batman and Robin. Number 4. Batman is not a machine. One of the most unsavory takes on the Batman character is that he is an unfeeling, unmovable person who will coldly and calculatedly cut you down should you ever cross him in even the slightest way. He's come off that way in several movies up to now, and though you'll hear me praise the animated series to the hilt, even there Batman is mostly portrayed as an emotionally distant, no questioning my orders, my way or the highway type leader. A man inevitably destined to push away every person he cares for or cares for him. But Batman's grim determination is not an excuse to dehumanize him. He's still Bruce Wayne, and while he's had a tough life all things considered, he should still be portrayed as a human being. He has friendships, colleagues, loved ones. I'm sure he enjoys a pastrami sandwich, a football game, and a good screwball comedy every once in a while. It's one thing to be brooding, but don't turn him into some kind of Miller-esque fanatic who believes his own hype. Number 3. The Batman never kills. Ever. Ever! So this is the biggest problem Hollywood seems to have without question, having Batman portrayed as a wanton killer in at least half the movies he's in. Now some will go back to the Golden Age crying, JT, JT, Batman killed in the Golden Age and even carried a gun, as if this is some shocking information I'm not aware of. In the Golden Age, Superman only leapt over tall buildings in a single bound, no flying. Is that what you want for Superman? The deal is these characters have evolved over the course of 80 years, and once you've evolved, there's no going back. Many feel that because censorship was a lot stronger then, that Batman has been unfairly saddled with a non-killing code. But regardless how the origin of the policy came about, it has become a fixture in the character's DNA that has developed naturally and cannot be easily ripped away. Some will even bring up, well, in the MCU, Captain America kills and Iron Man kills, and you don't seem to have a problem with that. Whether folks want to admit it or not, there is a big glaring difference. Captain America is a freaking World War II Army captain. His name might be a dead giveaway. While battling Axis forces in World War II, he was called to use firearms like any other soldier. That's not a crime, and that's not against an established code. I'm a bit more uncomfortable with Cap firing a gun in modern times, as in the Avengers, but he's shooting at Hydra, which is the modern outgrowth of the Nazi Party, after all. Iron Man isn't much different. Tony Stark manufactures war munitions and was captured and held by a terrorist organization in the Middle East. His origin, too, is steeped in combat and warfare. So when he returns to the Middle East to take out the terrorist warlords and free the people being oppressed, it's not quite the same as Batman blowing up a factory full of goons, or strapping a bomb to a thug and dropping him down a sewer. The entire reason for the birth of Batman was a random act of violence. Bruce Wayne can never use a firearm. It's anathema. Every time he sees a gun pointed at him, he remembers the 10-year-old who stared down the barrel of a gun before watching his father and mother gunned down. The scene in Batman Begins where Bruce attempts to kill Joe Chill with a handgun, and later is disgusted with himself for even holding the weapon and flings it into the sea, is one of the most powerful scenes in all of Batman's cinematic appearances. Because at that moment, Bruce was dangerously close to becoming what he hates, what he's afraid deep down in his core that he might become. Someone like the man who took lives that night in Crime Alley. But it goes deeper than just mere weaponry. To take a life is something Bruce is unwilling to do. Again, Batman Begins makes the point very well. To Bruce, it separates Batman from the scum he fights. By killing, he also takes the law into his own hands, thereby dispensing lethal justice without due process, making him little more than the Punisher. Batman is not an anti-hero. Bruce created Batman to be a positive symbol. He took the worst thing that could happen to a child and turned it into a force for good. Jim Gordon understands that Batman is a force for good, and that's why the Bat-Signal shines brightly at night. However, if you allow Batman to be judge, jury, and executioner, dropping bodies left and right all over Gotham, then you force Jim Gordon, who is the most honest and altruistic cop there ever was, to turn against him, making Batman hounded by the police, who will continue to attempt to bring him to justice, hindering his effectiveness as a crime fighter. It's also important to remember that Bruce undertaking the mantle of the Bat was no small endeavor. He trained for a decade to master every form of hand-to-hand combat, precisely so he would not resort to having to take a life. He also has every kind of state-of-the-art weapon at his disposal that makes lethal force unnecessary. He put in the work so that there would be no need for killing, which is what makes it all the more ridiculous, seeing what lengths movies seem to go to give him a tremendous body count. Killing is easy. Batman doesn't compromise his principles to take the easy way out. The Dark Knight got the duel between Batman and the Joker right. If the Batman kills, the Joker wins. Criminals win. And Batman is no longer an agent of justice. He's taking a life, a father, son, husband, brother. It doesn't matter how evil the villain is. Batman does not kill. This then does raise the question, when is enough enough, and Batman should just kill the Joker? Number 2. Joker doesn't need to be an utterly depraved, sick puppy. For years, people have said non-lethal code be darned, Batman should just end the Joker after all the misery he's caused. I'll play Captain Obvious for a minute here and give the obvious answer. The Joker is a popular character, probably the single most popular villain among fans, and to kill him off even in grand fashion means no more Joker stories, either in comics, cartoons, movies, thus killing the golden goose. You also have to consider if Batman is willing to kill the Joker, then what's to stop him from killing the Riddler? And then Mr. Freeze. And then Two-Face. And before you know it, he's moved on to Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. And before you know it, even Crazy Quilt won't be safe. And you've successfully destroyed one of the greatest rogues galleries in comics. But the overall problem stems from the fact that writers love to make the Joker as depraved as possible. He didn't start out that way, and that's not what made him popular. He was always a killer, of course, but his shtick was to kill people in humorous ways. The Smilex gas, the acid-squirting flower, the joy buzzer that literally fried a guy. It's a far cry from where he is now, using knives and blunt instruments like any common hoodlum. And Joker used to be funny, not necessarily scary. He was a devious schemer, which is how he won over one Dr. Quinzel. He's the guy you felt like you might want to hang around with and have a few laughs right up until he pushed you into a huge shark tank. The punchline is key, but it's usually missing in the modern interpretation. Take the scene in Suicide Squad where Joker foists Harley Quinn on Common. Joker pretty much sits there uncomfortably while Common politely declines Harley's attention before Joker simply shoots him dead. Now, this scene could have been funny as well as accurate to the Joker's character had we got the slightest indication that this was some sly joke that Mr. J was orchestrating. But the result is just blandly unoriginal for the Joker, who once again simply kills a guy without even the benefit of a needed punchline. But then we had him shooting Barbara Gordon point blank and crippling her, before stripping her naked for a photo shoot, torturing Commissioner Gordon, and let's not forget beating Jason Todd to death with a crowbar. Well, not quite to death, but you get the point. The more egregious crimes committed by the Joker, the more license you're giving Batman to kill him. There is probably no better example than of Batman 89 making the Joker the killer of the Waynes. It's like signing the Joker's death warrant. Batman has to kill him to avenge his parents, thereby making Batman break his code and making him decidedly un-Batman-like. Don't make the Joker such a depraved, sick puppy in the first place, and you won't make Batman look bad for not killing him. Number 1. Batman never, ever gives up. One of the things that also gets my goat is the concept of the quitting Batman. The folly of The Dark Knight Rises was mostly in the concept that Batman was sort of a hobby that Bruce would carry out until organized crime was reduced to manageable levels and could be left for the police. In reality, Bruce can never abandon his Batman persona so long as there's a child out there in danger of losing his parents to an act of random violence. It's never been about having an end game. It's never been about stopping organized crime or stopping the rise of the freaks. It's always ever been keeping that one child safe, making sure that one life avoids the same tragedy he faced by growing up without his parents. Batman Forever at its core had that message pretty well represented. Batman will always exist until Bruce is no longer able to fully function. I'm not the biggest fan of the series Batman Beyond, but even there they got it right. Bruce continues on as Batman right up to his senior years, until he finds he's physically incapable and finds himself pulling a discarded gun on a thug in order to frighten him off. Having been brought to this level of desperation, Bruce hangs it up, saying, "Never again." You heard that right. For simply brandishing a gun on a random thug, he says never again and retires. Bruce realizes that a successor is needed, but like the quarterback that thinks he still has one good season left in him, Batman won't just hand over the keys to the kingdom unless his life depends on it. Taking us full circle, one might even say part of the reason of the Bat family to begin with is Bruce understanding that someday he'll need to leave his legacy to a successor or successors. And so there you have it. Hollywood has gotten Batman wrong so many times, but they have proven that they can make a good decision if they try. Following these 5 rules would ensure a Batman that all fans could get behind. This is Johnnie Torch, stepping down from my soapbox, reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.